Hey everyone. So I got some really amazing questions last night and this morning and today after I asked you to ask me questions from the bullying video. So, first of all, thank you to those who watched. Second, thank you to those who watched and sent me questions. Plus, there were some amazing techniques for calming down, techniques for handling feelings that I think your kids are really going to benefit from this summer. So, I'm going to see if we can find an opportunity for you guys to share those with each other at some point. But for now, what I wanted to do, the questions started coming in, I was blown away. They were so amazing. And I thought to myself, well, if I just have a dialogue with this one person to answer this question, then not everybody else gets the benefit of the question that was asked because they were all so good. So I decided to make another video for you. And here it is. This is bullying questions from staff part 1. Anyone else who has questions after this, that is still your assignment after watching the video to send me a question. If it's the same question, that's fine, or you need clarification, that's fine too. Otherwise, send me your new questions. All right, so the first one is there any way of knowing beforehand if a child has been involved in any abuse or childhood violence? And the answer to that is a little complex. We only know what the parents tell us. So we get information in a couple of ways. We get information on a health form, and we get information on what we call as a camper questionnaire. So those go to the parents fill them out and send them back to us. So if they choose to disclose, then we have that information. If they don't, then we don't. Sometimes we do develop relationships with families over the course of, I've known even some of you since you're 5. So we have a lot of campers like that where we have seen their family dynamics, we have seen their development and their growth. We have kind of sometimes even called CPS ourselves. So we do have that information that even if the parent didn't disclose it, we still might have it. But like I said, we can only really tell you what we know, and we only know what they tell us. So every camper who has any kind of issues at all, medical or psychological or behavioral or emotional or anything like that, goes on a confidential list. All of you will get a copy of your group's confidential list at the beginning of each week for day camp and at the beginning of each session for sleepaway camp. That confidential list is your kind of lifeline. We also have Shannon with us this summer. Shannon is our inclusion specialist. So she's been going through our camper questionnaires and kind of making notes on what is important for the counselors and staff to know about each kid. All right, so that answers that one, hopefully. Question 2, what is the best way of dealing with a situation that a camper has reported but no staff member has witnessed? I love this question because it happens all the time. So we have to be on everyone's side. Kids know if you don't believe them. They also know if you believe the other person above them or like place more importance on one camper's story than another camper's story. So my first piece of advice, kids should not be left without supervision. Seriously. They should not be left without supervision. If there's 2 counselors on a group, if you're at a specialist area, there's also the specialist. Please, please, please do your very best to ensure that campers are not by themselves. All right. So the most common one of these is a kid gets like $2 taken out of their backpack. Another kid goes, oh, I know who did it. I saw them. But no staff member was around, nothing. So there's a couple of levels. Does that kid like that other kid? Are they trying to get them in trouble? Did they actually see it? Etc. So what I do generally is I believe the best in everybody, especially the kids. So I believe if a kid comes up to me and says, he pushed me, I fell down, it hurt, and I'm sad, then I believe that child. So we go and we investigate. I'm not going to go to the other kid and go, you're in trouble for pushing that kid, because we haven't gotten that side of the story yet. So we go and we investigate. We say, hey, what happened? This camper says you hit them. Did you hit them or push them or whatever the story is? Did you take their money? Whatever the story is. By the way, kids that take things from other kids' backpacks will, like 1 times in 100, admit that they did it. It's very, very rare. Which is why we try to make sure that kids are not left unsupervised. That's double negative. So we must supervise them. So, investigate. Do your very best. Investigate. Get all sides of the story. See if there were any other camper witnesses. If a kid comes up and tells you something like that, go, "Oh, was anyone else around? Did anybody see it?" Find out if you can get the story. And then in that case, moving on, you got to make that kid feel like they were heard and like you are able to take care of them. So the kid that had told you that the other kid had done something to them, you say, "You know what? I'm going to keep an extra close eye. I'm going to keep an extra close eye on you. We'll make sure that me or my junior counselor or a specialist or the beach or the waterfront lifeguards or Jess or anybody will make sure that we're keeping an extra close eye on you to keep you safe." All right, especially if you're around that other kid. We'll make sure that there's just like a kind of a couple extra set of eyes on them. And you tell the camper that so that they feel like you are able to care for them in the way they need to be cared for. All right, next question. How do you confront a situation in which a group of kids are excluding one kid? The first thing I want to say about this, first of all, we're going to do our behavior management workshop this year a little bit more like a conference style. So there'll be about 7 or 8 options, half-hour long workshops. You'll get to pick 4 of them to go to, depending on what you're interested in, what you'd like to learn more about. So this is actually going to be one of those conference style workshops about inclusion and making sure that everyone in your group is included. But my number one piece of advice for this is just start the group off on the right foot. That's actually another one of those behavior management workshops. Do a team building activity. Make sure everybody knows everybody's name. Make sure they know what they have in common with each other, even if it's like one thing. So, and also be aware of making sure that you are in charge of those group dynamics. If they're playing a team game, make sure you make the teams. If they're playing like an imagination game at the playground or something like that, make sure that you can just kind of insinuate yourself in the situation to see if anyone's being left out or if anyone's being like a target in that game. So just keep your ears and eyes open. It's all about the supervision. It's all about the redirection. So if you'd like to know more about those 2 things, inclusion and setting your group up for success, those are definitely 2 of your options for the behavior management workshop coming up. I think it's on Tuesday, but don't hold me to that. Okay, so next question. What if I am working as support staff? What is my role in a bullying or confrontation then? Support staff is kitchen and housekeeping primarily. It also can include our specialists when they're not on their specialist area. They may be working in the office or they may be helping out another group or something like that. And sometimes you feel a little awkward about like intervening in a situation if they're not your group of kids. But one of our main staff understandings that we're going to go over is that every child is the responsibility of every staff member on camp. I'm going to say that first. We can get into a little bit more throughout the rest of orientation about how kind of interfering does make things more difficult for counselors. But if you are support staff and you see 2 kids getting into something, like maybe they're on their way to the bathroom as a buddy pair or something, and no other counselors are around, get there. Get there and help them. Okay? Then you can talk to the counselor later and be like, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know I did intervene in this situation. I don't want to step on your toes, but this is what happened. Let me know if I can help in any other way." And I think they would appreciate that because we really are all on the same side. We're all on the same side. We want the best for the kids. We want the best for the program. We want the best for the camp in general. And we want the best for ourselves and the staff. And if we can make sure we're setting the kids up for success and mediating conflicts like this, our lives are going to be a lot better. All right, next one. What is the first thing you do when you see a conflict happening? That is a very good question. And to me, it does depend on what is happening. If it's a fight, then get there and separate those kids. I'm never, ever, ever going to ask you to put yourself in physical danger. So if 2 kids are actually fighting each other, you need to practice your outdoor voice to stop them. Even if it's in the cabin, even if it's in Schweiger, you can ask some staff members how scary my outdoor voice is. I'm not going to do it because I'm talking into a microphone and I don't know if it could handle my outdoor voice, my mom voice. So, but I think Sabrina could probably tell you more if you see her. So I have had to stop a fight verbally before. I also am one of those crazy people that like will throw myself bodily in between 2 kids that are fighting, and we get some big kids, man. So don't do that don't do that. Just it's not safe. But use your voice, use your words, and try to get those kids separated and apart. If it's a situation where it's like more of a social situation where like the kids are excluding the other kids, just make yourself known. Make your presence known. Hey guys, what are you playing? Oh, you guys are playing together? Oh, I see someone sitting by themselves. You should include them. And just do it in that kind of happy, directive way. Not like, I see that you're leaving them out. Don't do that. Not at first. If it continues, you can get to that kind of firm stage. But at the beginning, make sure that you're just like, give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that they're all good people and they don't want to hurt anyone else's feelings. Okay, so if there are like a verbal argument, like a heated argument, then also get the kids just separated if you can. Again, this is challenging sometimes depending on where you are on camp, but do your best. Okay. What happens when a child becomes aggressive and won't stop when asked? These questions, seriously, you guys blew my mind. I'm so impressed with you. And I know this is going to be an amazing summer. Last summer, we had a camper freaking out, totally freaking out. Big dude, not a little dude, big dude. Little dude I can like wrap up in a hug. Big dude, I'm not doing that. I actually injured my back back in like my first year or second year of camp, trying to wrestle a big dude. It's not happening anymore. I'm too old for that. But he was getting like real mad. Like he was trying to flip picnic tables and like he had a broom and he was swinging it around and stuff. So this stuff has happened in the past. What you want to do is keep everybody safe as best you can. So if you have a kid who's aggressively swinging, yelling, etc., get the other kids out of there. Get them out of there. If you have a co-counselor, junior counselor, have them go with them. And then you tell that camper who's freaking out, you are so mad right now. I feel it. I feel how angry you are. I'm ready to talk when you are calm. I'm going to keep myself safe and move over there, but I am there for when you're ready to talk in a reasonable way. I'm there for you. And then get out of there. Stay within eye shot if you can. But hopefully your other staff member and the campers have come and gotten me or gotten Scott or gotten Tyrell or gotten Rory or whoever else you are able to get at that time to see if we can all talk that kid down. And that's our goal. Talk that kid down. Just make sure we know that they know that we're there. They know that we know they're mad. They're having a really strong feeling. I sometimes say things like, when I'm that mad, I take a whole bunch of deep breaths and sometimes I'll snap and count. I'll go 1, 2, 3 and breathe in for 4. Breathe out for 4. And I'll just do that to myself in the corner, far away from the kid who's swinging. But sometimes they do kind of tune into it and adjust their breathing so that they can calm down too. All right. How do you deal with a child who is the upstander? How can you protect them from becoming the target of further bullying from the aggressive kid and make sure they know that it was the right thing to do and there won't be consequences for them? There are differences between tattling and telling. And it's kind of hard for kids to differentiate between them. This is kind of going to be up to you. Sometimes it's as simple as you get down on that kid's level, you look them in the eye and you say, I saw what you did. That was brave. That was amazing. I'm really impressed with you. And then you don't talk about like, oh, well, if you did that, you could, they're going to target you next. We never do that. We reinforce the behavior. We give positive feedback. And then we, inside our heads, go, I'm going to keep an extra eye out on that kid. Because the kids there are some kids that are with us for 10 weeks. There are some kids that are with us for 1 week. So there's really not that much time for that kind of power differential to happen. We also want to create a culture where bullying is not acceptable from anybody, so that the majority of our kids are upstanders and not bystanders. So hopefully if a kid did stand up to another kid, they were supported by their peers. So you do the best you can, you reinforce the positive behavior, and you just keep in the back of your mind that you want to keep an eye out just in case that kid does become the target of any more aggression. All right, next bit. Oh, another great question. What if I am working as a one-to-one and see a situation happening with other campers who aren't my direct responsibility? What do I do then? Now, this is a similar question to the support staff question. Every camper on camp is the equal responsibility of every staff member on camp. That's the staff understanding. Again, there are subtleties to that to make sure that we are not stepping on toes. If a counselor is sort of right in the middle of taking care of a situation, you don't want to step in. And also, if a counselor has been sometimes there are times when you have to ignore a behavior. Like if a kid has been just crying over nothing or crying for like 15 minutes, sometimes you have to be like, okay, I understand you're feeling really sad. You sound really sad. You seem really sad. You're crying a lot. Here's a tissue. I'm here for you, but I can't talk to you when you're hysterical. I'm going to wait until you're ready. And then you move away from that kid. You stop reinforcing that negative behavior because that crying, it's not productive. You want to reinforce productive behaviors from kids. And that includes solving problems and talking about them and not just like melting, crying on the ground and looking, because that is attention seeking. That's negative attention seeking. And again, we have it all the time. Kids just have temper tantrums. Kids have meltdowns. Kids cry for a long time. And the important thing to do is kind of like grab the eye of the counselor and be like, are they okay? And if the counselor's like, then you know to leave it alone. If the counselor's like, what? And they didn't maybe know the kid was crying because they were dealing with 13 other kids at the time, then it might be a time to say, I'll take care of it. You just communicate with your fellow counselors and your fellow staff. One-to-ones. Okay, so if you are working with one of our campers with special needs whose parents have requested a one-to-one, your primary responsibility is to them. So let's say you're at Arts and Crafts and your camper is doing great. They're doing their arts and crafts. They're having fun. They're talking to the other kids, and you see a conflict happening somewhere else. And maybe the other counselor for the group is occupied, helping out with arts and crafts or helping a kid or dealing with another conflict because there's always more than one happening at a time. You have to multitask. If your kid's okay, then yes, please definitely intervene in the other's behavior situation, especially if it's within your own group, because your goal as a one-to-one is really to integrate your camper into that group as a whole so that they're like a whole little camp, happy, wonderful family who's taking care of each other. So you'll get to know all the kids in the group just like you get to know your camper. Okay? So take care of your camper first. If they're melting down or if they're having trouble or if they're, having a challenge at that moment, then you cannot deal with that other situation. But what you can try to do is alert another staff member to that problem. So you say, hey, I'm dealing with this right now, but if you could help over there, that'd be great. And that way, because someone else might not have noticed or might have been in a different place in the arts and crafts tent or something like that. So primary responsibility is to your one-to-one, secondary responsibility to the rest of the campers in the group. Ideally, it's one and the same because, we do want them to be as included as possible. All right. What do we do if a camper has a cell phone out? Do we take it right away or do we give them a warning? This is another great question. We are going hard on cell phones this summer. We are a cell phone free camp for campers. I do not need campers on their cell phones. I will tell you, there's a ridiculous amount of times where a camper with a cell phone has caused me like an extra 4 hours of work. It's a kid who... Last year, for instance, there was a senior or like a kid in one of the older 6th grade girls groups, had her phone, was upset about something, texted her mom that it was the worst day ever and how is she ever going to survive? And I need you to come pick me up. And like my counselor's so mean. So that's what she texts to her mother. Her mother panics and calls me. I'm on my way to get her. She's really upset. She's crying. She can't stop crying. Her counselor's yelling at her all the time. We did not pay for this. And I'm like, whoa. Generally, if a kid is having a meltdown of any kind, I will see them. I'll either see them at the program office or Scott will see them or someone will see them. No one had seen this kid all day. She was with her group the whole day. I went to the group. And I said, what's going on? And granted, the group was in trouble. They had done something that really required them to have a sit-down conversation with their staff member. Truly. Like, it was not a little thing that they did. They were, like, being really disrespectful or something. But I was like, give me your phone to the camper. This is a phone-free area. If you have a problem and you need to contact your mom, come to the office. I will let you call your mom. 100%. We will always let campers call their parents. And same thing, if parents want to call their campers, they can call the office. I'll get our camper for them. No problem. No problem. But cell phones are the devil in campers' hands at camp. For staff, just a heads up, if you are a staff member and you have your phone out and we see you like engrossed in your phone, texting, scrolling through Facebook, whatever it is, you get one warning. After that warning, we're taking your phone because you cannot be connecting with campers if you're scrolling through Instagram. There are great uses for phones. We'll go over them at orientation. They're also in the staff handbook, which I think Scott linked you to. Okay, so how many times should we speak to a camper? Oh, back to the phone thing real quick for campers. We just need to make sure, and you as a counselor, especially with older groups, you need to make sure that you make that expectation very clear right from the beginning. You look them in the eyes and you say, I'm warning you right now. If anybody has a phone, now is a really good time to put it in the program office in a safe place. Because if I catch you with it out, I will take it and bring it to the program office for a safe place, and you'll get it back at the end of the day. What's my expectation of you? That we leave our phones away or we don't bring them. Exactly. What's going to happen if I see you with your phone? You're going to take it away. Okay. So that way they clearly understand what the rule is and what the consequence is. You're not going to just take a camper's phone away without having warned them what was going on. That's just not doing the right thing. All right. Last question for this session. How long have I gone? I can't tell. My husband is a tech genius. He set me up with a recording thing right now. I think it's recording. Yeah, it says it is. But I can't. Oh, 20 minutes. All right, not too bad. How many times should we speak to a camper about a behavior before we ask for help from a program staff member? Again, such a good question. Rory is going to do a workshop on this during our behavior management conference style training. It's called Can I Handle This? That's the name of his workshop. The answer to that question really does depend on the behavior, the level and severity of that behavior, and the duration of that behavior. So if you've had to talk to a camper 3 times about the same thing, it's probably time to get some help. Or it may be time to reevaluate how you are communicating your expectations to that camper. It also may be time to reevaluate what is driving that camper to do that behavior and figure out a creative way for you to be able to help that kid let that energy out in a different way. Behavior is communication. If a kid is throwing rocks and throwing rocks and throwing rocks and throwing rocks, you got to get creative with that kid. You got to give them something else to hold on to occupy their hands. You got to say, hey, you know what? We can't throw rocks now, but let me get a couple of bean bags and we can throw them as much as we want. And I'll set up a couple of hoops and we'll go for prizes at the basketball court. We have basketball court in our schedule in like an hour. I'll set up a beanbag course or a frisbee golf course or something, and you can throw things to your heart's content then. But stop throwing rocks, stop throwing rocks, stop throwing rocks, stop throwing rocks, stop throwing rocks is going to make you a crazy person. And that camper is not going to hear that. That camper is going to hear that once and then never, ever again. So just make sure you are not driving yourself crazy. You do need to be creative and think carefully about what the camper's trying to communicate to you and how you can help them and answer their like request, as it were. All right. So if you are interested in more about like what needs to come to the program staff, please go to Rory's Can I Handle This workshop. If it is a violent incident of any kind where a kid got hurt, that needs to come to the program office, because I do not want a parent to hear about that kind of thing from the camper. Parents should hear about that kind of thing from the staff. Okay? All right, that's it for tonight. Thank you so much for your questions. Please keep them coming. I love them, and I'm so happy with the responses that have come back already. So thank you, everybody. It's going to be an awesome summer.